Marketing makes the phone ring. Sales makes the cash register ring. All on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, here every week discussing all things pests. Got an exciting podcast for you today. We're going to be discussing marketing and why so many of us are so bad at it. We're terrible at marketing. We're terrible at advertising. We're terrible at branding. We are great technicians. And we're great salespeople. We can sell if we ever get a warm body in front of us to talk to us. And this is the whole issue with marketing and sales, that it's just 2, 3, and 4 different disciplines. And marketing is not sales. And advertising is not sales. And, branding is not sales. These are things that are outside of sales. They get the phone to ring so that you can have an opportunity to pitch your product, your service, and tell everybody in the world why you're the greatest and why they should choose you over your competition. But if you can't get them to call, if you can't get them in front of you, then you can be the greatest guy in the world, have the greatest service, and nobody knows about it. And that's the biggest challenge that we have as pest control people, that we don't see ourselves as marketers. We see ourselves as technicians that have to sell something, but we don't want to get involved in all that marketing and advertising and analytics and statistics and demographics and all the things that are required to create that brand image in the customer's mind in order to grow our businesses. I would venture to say there's 2 types of people listening to me right now. There's the one who says, I want to grow. I want to be a bigger company. I want to have employees. I want to grow to $1 million, $2 million, $3 million company. Heck, I just want to get out of the $100,000 a year that I've been selling for the last 10 years. I want to know what it's like to sell $500,000. Well, the reality is that as a solo operator, you're limited. As a solo operator, you are never going to be able to produce more than what you can personally do, and everybody has a limit on what they can personally do. The only way that you're going to make more this year than you did last year is to raise your prices, because you're not getting a ton of new business or sticking, or you're just limited to how many people you can serve in a day, and you're not going to be able to do much more. You're capped. Every business is going to experience plateaus along the way. Every business. You're going to plateau at 100,000 and figure out how you can get to 150. You're going to plateau at 300,000, figure out how you can get to $500,000. You're going to plateau at $500,000, figuring out how you're going to get to $1 million. When you get to $1 million, you're going to plateau, and then you got to figure out how to get to 2. That's perfectly normal. And the other type is the one who says, I don't want to grow. I want to stay a one-man operation forever. I don't want to have to deal with employee issues. That's the number one reason why people don't grow. The number one reason people don't grow is they can't see themselves past themselves. And a lot of it has to do with 2 things. Number 1, fear, and number 2, ego. Fear is, I can't bring a guy here and turn this over to him because he's going to screw it up, because I've worked at big companies. I worked and I've seen all of the problems that employees bring. And I cannot handle turning over my baby to somebody else. Fear of what's going to happen. The other reasoning is ego. Nobody can do it like me. Nobody's better than me. I'm the best. And I cannot train another. I've tried training other people to do this, And, they can't. I can't find someone that's just like me. Well, guess what? He doesn't exist. And I guarantee you that the moment you find someone just like you that can do what you can do, and he's been there for 2 to 3 years and there's no upward mobility, he's going to start up his own business. He's going to do the same exact thing you did. And that's the other fear people have. They're going to create competition. They're going to, they're afraid. They live in a constant fear. The other fear is they make lousy marketers because they reject every single marketing tactic and every single strategy and every single thing that is put out there. They reject it as being deceitful, dishonest, corrupt, because they came out of a company that's what they did. For years, not only in this business, but in other businesses, I thought the same thing. I worked for some companies that were total crap, weren't worth, the paper that it was written on. And then I worked for some really good companies that did go to market very well. The attitude that small business has, the little small independent guy, is that the only way you can get big is by screwing everyone else over. And that's not true. Because I've worked for good companies that were small, that were 10 employees, and they treated everybody really good. And I've worked for large companies that also treated people very good. And I've worked for independents, one-man shows, who were just total butt wipes. And I worked for large companies that sucked, that treated everybody as if everybody was a useless rag. It all depends. You cannot blanket and stereotype everything in the world based on your experience. You see, you can't do that. And a lot of people have gotten a bad taste in their mouth. And now they're operating their business until they run into year number, everything is wonderful in year number 1, year number 2, year number 3. Where in year number 1, you're taking on everything that comes through the door. It doesn't matter what it is. You've never done a live animal removal, but dang it, you're going to do it because why? You got to pay the bills. You're starting out and you have no safety net. You have no savings. You just got to go out there and sell everything you can. So you do exclusion, you do animal trapping, you do gopher trapping, you do rodent exclusion. You'll remove a bat, from an attic. You'll crawl under a crawl space in sewage, in raw sewage, and you will get that animal out of there. You will do whatever it takes. You're doing bed bug service. You're doing termite. You're doing it all. Because we do it all. Because you got to survive. And you do that year 1. And you get year 1, you're 80,000, 100,000. Come year 2, you got to do it all over again. And now, you got to do the same amount of selling and the same amount of animal trapping. And you have a route to run because your business is picked up, but all these big jobs are showing up. And you've got no way of handling those big jobs, and you start leaving the big jobs and start just focusing on the route, but you're not growing. Come year number 3, if you're able to make and do the same thing, and by year number 5, you're wiped out. You're exhausted. You can't see how you're going to do it again another year. That's what happens to the typical guy who starts up, if he ever makes it past year number 1 and year number 2. Because he worked for a large company and he was a good tech. And he figured that he could do so much better on his own. He went out on his own and fell flat on his face. Because he realized he couldn't handle everything that had to be done in order to make it. He didn't understand anything really about marketing. And he thought he could sell because, the company provided leads. And of course, the company paid an exorbitant amount for those leads. In excess of $125 to get a lead. And now you're realizing how much marketing and advertising, depending on the market you're in. What works, I see this all the time in groups. and I'm in about 20 groups right now that I monitor, and I try to see what's happening. Most of the guys that are talking about, what do you charge for this service? What do you charge for that service? One thing is, how do you do it? But when you start asking in a chat group, in a group, I keep talking chat groups, I'm thinking back to 1980s. But you're in a group and you start asking people, what are they charging? You're setting yourself up for a disaster, because what you can charge in one of the wealthiest towns in the world, in Virginia, you will never get if you're in Louisiana. What somebody charges in Wisconsin will never compare to what somebody charges in South Florida. What you might be able to get in California is going to be different than what you're able to get in South Texas. Marketing, when we're looking at marketing, we have to look at local marketing. But here's what happens. People have not changed in 10,000 years. Sure, technology has changed. Everything has improved. But the psychology of man, the way man is wired, and women too, I'm speaking in general terms, has not changed the way we're wired. When you see a company, people get their hands in an uproar about what this company is doing in their marketplace, whether they're hiring a door-to-door sales force, whether they went to market with a $100 off coupon off an initial service, whether they're marketing a $29 initial service, whether they waive the initial service, whether they have contracts, whether they don't have contracts. And you realize that you guys are not marketers. You're not salespeople. You're good techs that happen to get into this, and you think that the world thinks like you. The biggest mistake you could ever make in marketing is to think that everyone thinks like you. Nobody thinks like you. You got to get over that. Before I continue, I want to thank a bunch of people that have been listening and sharing and contacting me on the podcast. Wiley Hamilton of ABC Bugs and Critters Pest Control out of Northport, Alabama. Thank you. Thank you so much. Alex Johnson, Tech. He's at the Big T in Fairborn, Ohio. Thank you for listening. And then we got Danny Mulligan, firefighter at East Morris's, I think it's Morris's, Hook and Ladder Company, #1. He's a firefighter there, and he's also a high-caliber wildlife control and nuisance wildlife control operator, and in Eastport, New York. And he's also works at the New York Southampton Town Police Department. Man, are you a busy guy? Thank you, and thank you for contacting me, and thank you for the encouragement. I really do appreciate it. And also Matt Butler, Butler's owners in Twitter of Butler's Pest owner. Butler's Pest at Butler Pest Solutions. He's the owner. And JG Pest Control, JG Pest out of England in the UK is following us on Twitter. Thank you so much. And also, guys, remember, wherever you at, please give us a review. Give us a review. Give us some stars. Let us know what you think. We would greatly, greatly appreciate that. It really does help us. Reaching out. Continue to reach out to the associations. Things are happening, guys. And one of the things I want you to realize is the industry has realized one thing. The industry has become a commodity. The industry doesn't want to accept they're a commodity, but the industry has become a commodity. In the customer's eyes, pest control is a commodity, whether you want to accept it or not. And they're realizing they need to reach out and they need to figure out how they tap in to everybody who's not on the 100 list. And the thing is to get membership and to get all that. Reach out to them. Continue to talk to them about the issues. Continue to talk to them about, they need to tune in to WIIFM. What's in it for me? It's no longer what's in it for them. It's what's in it for us. And, You need to have that conversation. Join the society, 707-395-7378. You can leave us a message anytime, 24/7. Also, join the society, pestgeekpodcast.com. You can join us there and join the membership section. You can get special information, things that I don't release on the podcast, that I'm working on a bunch of things. I've just been so swamped with work and everything that we're doing, the growth, and just I got to be out in the field a lot more. And, so basically that's what I'm doing right now, but I got some stuff going in that's going to help you. We're talking about marketing and about how we're going to get that phone to ring with our marketing. And in the old days, when I was doing marketing and marketing analysis, understand that I don't know a whole lot about copywriting. I'm not a great writer. I'm a terrible writer. I don't do great copywriting. I don't do illustrations well because I'm not an artist. I don't draw well. I don't understand a whole lot. I understand about what I want to do with my brand. How to do it is a different matter, and I need people next to me that are going to help me brand. Advertising is nothing more than really figuring out where you're going to put your message, whether it's going to be on a billboard, whether it's going to be, what is the ad going out, and having that consistency across the platform of advertising. And then you got public relations, and public relations is about what the media says about you, and managing that, and then publicity and all that is where, that's out of your control. That's the media view is publicity. When a newspaper writes you up or a magazine writes you up, that's publicity. And of course in public relations. And then you have sales, which is a totally different discipline than marketing and advertising and branding. It's by itself in there. And my strong thing has always been data. I've been involved in data, collecting data, analyzing data, interpreting data. That's the hardest thing to do. And in sales, when I was in sales and I did a lot of, we're going to go after this market, we're going to go into that market, where should we go? How should we do it? We can't target everybody. We used to use what it was known, the Rand McNally Commercial Atlas and Marketing Guide. And what this used to do is just give us a whole bunch of demographic data in a manual, basically census data, whether it's a principal business center, a PBC, how far is it from the major city? So if we put a store here, we did this here, how far were people really willing to drive, and what business can we bring in from these other markets? This is the same stuff that, Walmart and all these guys do. And this is why the little guy, when he's in a market and he's been the only guy there forever, and then all of a sudden he doesn't plan on growing, he doesn't plan on getting any bigger, he doesn't plan on expanding, all of a sudden 15 miles away, a super Walmart is built, and now he can't compete and he goes out of business. Why the little hardware guy who used to have to mark everything up 40 to 60% in order to make a profit, now is out of business when there's a Home Depot or a Lowe's put 10, 15 miles away, because they figured out how far people are willing to go to save the money. We used to use this atlas. Now, you don't have to. I think they printed, I don't know if they stopped printing this. It's pretty pricey because we used to pay like $100 and something for it. I think it's up to like $300 now. And I think maybe the last one they published somewhere between 2009 and 14. I hadn't used it since about before 2000, so about 1999. I used to use that atlas all the time to learn where I used to figure out when I was trying to cut a deal and figure out, what I could ask for pricing. It was all dependent on all that marketing data, what we analyzed, of what we could ask for, discounts and things like that, depending on what the competition was, who was there, and could we pin one against the other to get a lower price. And that we did all that. And let me tell you something. You want to talk about something that is exhilarating, but then at the end you realize that you're destroying the livelihoods of many, many, many people. And that's what really got to me, is the fact that I'd realized that we were making deals, we were making money, we were putting everybody out of business. And that really bothered. Today, you can use the same data to figure out your demographics, figure out where you're going to target, figure out, you can get all that data with city-data.com. So there's a tip for you for city-data that you can get all the demographic information up to date right now. You don't have to spend a penny. You can have the same data that marketers use to decide where they're going to put things in a marketplace. Another great book that you should buy is called Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And this is about how to be remarkable, how to stand out in a crowded marketplace. Listen, I realize that everybody who's listening to me is not in a big market like I am. I'm in a top 100 market. And this is, here it's so cutthroat that every time I cut a deal, I need to go get a blood transfusion. Okay? That's how cutthroat it is. That's how much you have to haggle. And you got to understand that I'm in a market where 65%, I got one city that I deal in. And when we think of my market, I think of the entire county of 2.8 million people, because the lines are blurred. There is no such thing as, well, I'm over here in this city and you're over there. Will you travel? Heck yeah, everybody will travel 20 miles to take care of you. And in 20 miles, you're going to cross 6 cities in 18 miles. So these little cities really, really mean nothing. When you look at the demographics for Miami-Dade County, I think it's in Miami-Dade County, the city of Miami is only about 500,000 people, 400 and something thousand. But when you add all the cities and suburbs around it, you got 2.8 million people. So really, I can get a call from somebody that's 15 minutes away, 15 miles away from me. That's a 45-minute drive, 15 miles sometimes, to get that far across, especially if you're going across over to the beach on the other side, where you got to cross causeways, and there's only like so many of them, and you got to travel so many miles to get to it. Okay, so it's about being remarkable. How can you in your town, in your city, depending on what you have to compete, it's different. If you're in a little town where everybody, there's 5 pest control companies in the area within 5 towns, and that's it. I got 422 competitors that are here, 1,700 techs in this county. That is cutthroat competition. Then you couple that with 65% of this county is Hispanic. The other part is from somewhere else. It's not Anglo. And what you got to understand about marketing and selling to minorities, not only minorities, but foreigners, is that everybody in the world haggles except us. You got to understand that if you go to the Middle East, everyone haggles. If you go to Mexico, a little kid who's 5 years old will out-haggle you if you go there as a tourist. He is trained from the time he's born to haggle. If you're different parts of Central and South America like we have here, it isn't about haggling. I think your price is too high. You need to adjust it. Well, we use sales tactics, and we go into training and sales training, and people start talking about, well, can you tell me about how much is too much? And most everybody's got a price in their head, not a Hispanic, not from Central and South America. Well, it's just too high, and he's never going to give you a price. And what you got to do is you got to bring that price down, and you'll go back to him and say, no, it's still too high. And he won't tell you how much is too high. See, selling in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world, if you're up in the Northeast, you're right up there in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and you're in Montana, and you're out there in nowhere land where you got to travel, 50 miles to find human civilization, there's no way anybody's giving you a discount. You're going to sell it at the highest price, and they're going to pay it. You go down to a crowded city like New York, 8 million people in New York City. In one city, not the county. Not the state. But you got people, they got more people in one city than we've got almost in the state of Florida. I think we're 20 million. You go different parts of Texas. Northern Texas is way different than southern Texas near the border. It's totally different. There are cities in Texas where it's 100% Hispanic. There's no other nationality there. And when you start asking for pricing, and when you start asking for what is everybody charging, you have no clue what your market is like. What you're admitting is, I don't have any market research. I don't know what my market is. What I do is I only only get pricing from my market. I have to compete in my market. I don't compete in Minnesota. I compete in Miami. And you have to do your marketing research here. What did I do? Everybody I asked, what do you charge for this? What do you charge for that? What do you charge for this? What do you charge for that? When I wanted to start the new business and rebrand, I called 12 companies out to give me a price on certain things in my house. And I figured out where the market was based on this. And you know what it was? It's all over the board. I got guys saying, I'll do it for $25 a month with no contract, spray and pray baseboard. And then I got companies coming in and saying, the average company is $125, $155 initial service fee with a 1-year contract and between $55 and $65 a month. That's where my competition is. That's it. That's what it's like in Miami. You have all the illegal guys, all the guys that are just, with one truck and they go through a neighborhood spraying and they're charging, I got one neighborhood, I was talking to a guy, he says, he got one guy in there doing houses for $15 a month in a rich neighborhood, by the way. So it's all over the place. You need to do your local market research. You need to do marketing. And marketing isn't about how you tell everybody how good you are. I'm going to tell you something. When you put 1,000 things on a card, on a postcard that says we do this and we do rodents and we do mice, no kidding, you're a freaking pest control company. When you say we offer great customer service and we offer superior this and superior products, you know what? Everybody expects that. You're not telling people something they don't know or they don't expect. Oh, great. You do pest control and you control rodents and you control roaches and you do this and you do it with great customers. That's what I'm expecting. What are you doing that's remarkable? What are you doing that stands out? What are you doing? Massey Services down here. They're not big in Miami. They're more bigger in the north part of Florida. But they just bought out 2 companies. And they've been on a buying spree too, by the way. They've been growing like gangbusters. Insight Pest Solutions out of Charlotte, and Raleigh, North Carolina, and also in Charleston, South Carolina. By the way, you can get that link on mypmp.net. I got a link to it and read the article. But they've been growing like crazy. And I remember several years ago, they had certain things on their website that I said, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're doing that. I can't believe it. I remember one time I was reading and they had a guarantee on their, if you were their customer, now they provided, if you ever got bed bugs, free service on bed bugs. That's no longer there. I remember reading that. Reading some things about guarantees on their shrubs. If the plant ever died, they would replace it. They're no longer doing that. See, there are things you can do at one time and you market it and you sell it and it gets the phone to ring. And then other times you can't do it anymore. It's going to depend on your growth. It's going to depend on where you want to get from here to there. But you know what? Without a strategy, without a plan, without a system of how you're going to do it, it's only a wish. It's not going to happen. Like I said, marketing makes the phone ring. Sales makes the cash register ring. The job of marketing, the job of advertising, the job of analytics is to figure out what's going to get somebody to walk into the store. What's going to get somebody to make that phone ring? What's going to cause somebody to send you an email? Click on your button that says get a quote now, order now. That's the job of marketing. It is the job of sales to close the sale. Here's the big problem. When you are the one-man show, you're the marketer. You're the advertiser. You're the brand. You are personally attached to everything. And guess what? Your emotions are attached to everything. And because you despise something about a company and you hate what your competition does to you, and what your competition has done, you say to yourself, you write all that off, and you say, I don't want to be any part of that. I don't want to do anything with that. That is corrupt. That is just wrong. That is deceptive. I want nothing to do with marketing. What I'm going to do is honest pest control. And what you end up with is a message that is so homogenized, so pasteurized, so sterilized, that if the person was desperate, they wouldn't call you. Because you don't want to deal with why you put out information and then have to explain. So you're so careful about your wording because you don't want to have to explain why a $29 initial fee requires a 2-year contract. Why $100 off a treatment, is what it is. Why do you have an offer that you have to explain, and you got to stand there in front of the customer and explain what your program is, because you don't have a program. You see these as just, no, there's a sales process. There's a sales program. Let me tell you something. Some of you are going to get really honked off of me, and I hope that you do, because it'll make you think at least. But when Terminex puts out a sale, and they in your market, and it's $100 off, they've got so much analytics behind that. They have so much data that shows if we go to this price point, we can get that phone to ring 28% more than if we did it at this price point, because we've done the analysis. I go online and I will see in some markets, and I do analytics all over the country, and see in some markets they're $100. In other markets, it's $75. In other markets, it's $50. And it's a different discount throughout the whole country based on the market analysis. Market analysis you don't have. Data you don't have. A/B split testing that you don't have, that you don't do. And you don't know how to do it. And even if you didn't know how to do it, you're not willing to put in the time to do it because you're too busy trying to chase down the next $5,000 deal to make that month, or the next $800 job for that day. But you're not building your business. You just keep doing the same thing over and over until somebody comes into your town and eats your lunch. And then what you do is you go cry and complain online about how these companies are taking all your business. Now they're coming in and wrecking. Look, I was in the Christian book market. I was in the Christian music market. I was in the Christian radio market. And let me tell you, it's no different. It's no different competing for shelf space in a Christian bookstore, selling a t-shirt. It's no different. It's no different when companies like large family bookstores came into town and all the little guys that were there for 20, 30 years couldn't compete with them because all the customers who were Christian weren't supporting them. They said, no, why should I pay you $39 for your Bible when I can get that same Bible over here for $29? You know why? Because nobody wants to pay more than they feel they have to for anything. And you do the same thing in your home. Think about it. You got hang-ups about marketing. I don't want to be like the other companies. I compete on quality. I use quality product. I spend the time in the home. Yes, you do. And no one out there is advertising crappy service. Nobody. What is your unique selling proposition? What do you have that's unique in the marketplace that's going to make you stand out so you can grow? Do you have a disruptive business model? Here's the hang-ups. I don't want to advertise my prices. I don't want to give discounts. I don't want to have specials. I don't want to have initial specials. I don't want to waive initials. I don't want to have contracts. I don't want to have a call to action because that's too salesy. I don't want to use 4-letter words like free consultation. I don't want to give any guarantees. I won't give anybody a guarantee. People are looking for guarantees. You wonder why our advertising, you put out 10,000 flyers and nobody calls you. And you're saying, direct mail is dead. Direct mail is dead. It doesn't work. Magazines don't work. No, the reason is you have no call to action, you have no strong offer, and nobody's going to pick up the phone. Because remember that whenever you market somebody, you have 3%. The maximum amount of calls that you can expect to get is about 3%, because only 3% of the people need and want what you're offering at the time that you offer it. The question is, do they have another pest control company that they're dissatisfied with? Scratch those off if they're satisfied. Second is, are they trying to do it themselves? Scratch that off if they're trying to do it themselves. So what you're in with is a company that needs your service, and now you has to decide, are they willing to pay for what that service costs? And the ability to pay and the willingness to pay are not the same thing. When you really nail it down, and you don't have a strong offer, you're getting the guy who's just out, he's out of luck, he's got the money, he's willing to pay, and you ended up with him, and it's 0.1%. So out of 1,000, you might get one call. Magazines with a distribution in a large market is different than in a little magazine in a hometown of 15,000 people. It's totally different. You go to market, in a big town, you better bring big guns, because you're going to need them. I've never seen a woman turn down a sale, a 50% off sale at Macy's, or Bloomingdale's, or Neiman Marcus. No woman ever says, I think it's unethical for me to go buy that dress at 50% off. Bed Bath & Beyond does it. Everybody does it. Nobody ever, when you decided to get your cell phone, and the company used to charge for cell phones, and now with a 2-year contract, you get a free cell phone, none of you said, oh, that's just unscrupulous. I will never sign a 2-year contract for a free phone. You did it. Why? Because you wanted the free phone. Versus paying $400 or $500, $600. Now that they stopped doing it, guess what the cell phone companies figured out? Since we stopped, the carriers stopped covering cell phones, and now you had to buy them, their sales went down. Cell phone manufacturers' sales went down on big high-end phones like the 7 series. So they came up with a lower cost phone to get, and now guess what? AT&T and Verizon and all these guys are offering free phones again. When you needed that alarm system that cost $1,800, but if you signed a 2-year deal, you got the free alarm system installed. Nobody said no. How about when satellite dishes were out? And there were 3. I remember buying my first satellite dish. I paid $3.99 for it. I picked it up in the store, went home, installed it, then called the company, and they still wanted a 1-year contract. Later, another company came out, free satellite, free installation with a 2-year, and I signed on the spot. I wasn't going to install another one of those and go buy another $400. It wasn't worth it. All things being equal, human beings are going to go for the least. We have all this pride. We're so great. We're the greatest company. Why is everything made in China? Why don't people say, no, I will pay $400 more for an American-made TV? When RCA in the 80s decided they weren't going to build another TV here, I remember my first computer that I ever bought. This was back in 1988. I was 18 years old, and I paid $1,500 for this computer. Monochrome screen. The thing was huge. One color, orange. Had no hard drive. 5.25-inch floppy. 8088 processor. Intel 8088 processor. This wasn't even a 286 XT. Floppy drives. It came with WordPerfect and 123. None of those companies are around anymore. Excel and Word took over. Dot matrix printer in one color, all the way across. I paid $1,500 for that system. No modem, no internet, no connectivity, nothing. Today, I can buy a computer system 100 times that capacity for about $300. I can still get them. See, I was one of those early adopters that would buy things that I really wanted, didn't care to pay the price. But now everything is made in China. The president wants to put tariffs on things coming in from Mexico. Really? You think Americans are going to pay 20% more on principle? Really? Tell me about it. I want to see it on principle. You're going to pay 20% more to make stuff here in the U.S. because you can't pay somebody $2 a day to make it somewhere else. You make it up on volume here in the U.S. Pest control is made up on volume. It's made up on route density. If you can put 20 houses together in one block, there's no travel time. You're going to disagree with me, and I tell you, it doesn't matter what you think. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. So now you want to go from 100,000 to 200,000, but let me tell you something. You've got a lot of mind changing to grow. You've got a lot of stinking thinking to get out of your head if you want to grow. A lot of taboos and a lot of things you've been told are just not right if you want to grow. You know, I spent the first 3 years learning how to do pest control. The last 5 innovating. How to do something that nobody's really doing where I'm doing it, and doing it better than everybody. Getting the rich, the top 1% to pay for the innovation. The same thing, I took the Tesla model. And we're going to get the early adopters to pay for it. Pay for the research, pay for the growth. And then we're going to figure out how we take it to the market and have a disruptive business model that makes everybody else go scrambling in our marketplace. You're saying that's really lofty goals. It is. Think big or go home. I've always been that way. I've done it in every single company that I've worked for. I've totally turned it on its head. Some people don't want things turned on their head. I can't work with people that don't want to do much better than they were doing, do things that are disruptive, because it's going to rattle somebody's cage. You know, the gospel is offensive. I'm a preacher of the gospel. And it's offensive to a lot of people. And yet, not everybody accepts it, and a lot more people reject me for it. But it doesn't stop me, and the message is controversial. It doesn't stop me from sending the message. It doesn't stop me in pest control from doing it. It doesn't stop me from doing this podcast, even though a lot of people say it's too controversial. You're going to have to do a lot of things differently if you want to grow. You're going to have to accept that you're going to get a lot of calls from people that you're going to have to explain your program. And what we do is we've done pricing. I mean, I've done so much pricing on that website because now I have the traffic to be able to do the testing. So you can't do the testing until you have the traffic. A lot of people put up their website and says, you know, how do I figure out if this is working? And how do I figure out that's working? And, you know, you got to give it time. It all depends where you're at. What you may be able to do, you know, if you're somewhere up in northern Ohio, what you're able to do in the next 6 months, 90 days, something that will take me a year and a half here to analyze because I can't get the traffic because of the competition. When you only have 10 companies online, you can easily get on the front page of Google without even trying. When you have 100 companies competing, you got to work your way up 10 pages of competition. How do you do it? You have to figure out what is it going to take. And I'm talking to a guy who we've been talking back and forth, who's in the same position. We've been doing it too darn long ourselves. But I did it myself with a plan. Some people are doing it themselves and they're tired of doing it themselves. What happens if you get sick? What happens if you got to spend a month in the hospital? What happens if your back goes out? My knee is going out. And the reason my knee's going out is back in, I believe it was 95, 96. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 95, 96. I had a really bad car accident. And it was so bad that the entire front end of that car got squished in about 1.5 feet. It almost crushed my knee because the dash went inside and pushed up against my leg and just damaged my knee. It didn't destroy it, but it damaged it bad enough that now if I carry a lot of weight or I do some things, my knee starts to hurt. And I feel it. If I'm on my knees a long time doing IPM, getting underneath counters, and my knee hurts. What's going to happen? Can I do this for another 6 years? Can I really do this for another 6 years? Can I, or do I have to hire somebody? The problem is that you want to hire someone, but your system is so darn complicated that it requires them to spend the next 9 months with you and then a year of training in the field to get it going. See, I decided I'm just going to hire different people to do different disciplines. It's like hiring a guy that can do SEO, do marketing, do sales, do advertising, and he's going to be good at everything. And by the way, I want you to do social media too while you're at it. No, you need a staff. You need a guy to handle social media. You need a guy to do a marketing director who understands all the disciplines. You need a guy who understands where's the best place to put this ad, an advertising guy. You need an SEO guy that knows how to make it show up online. You need all these disciplines. Why do it makes you think that you're going to get a guy who can do rodent, who can do animal control, who can do bedbug, who can do lawn, who can do ornamentals, and in 2 years, you're going to make him an expert? He'll die in 2 years. You got to have a system. Marketing has to do with getting that message and getting that phone to ring. You got to be able, and I'm a little bit all over because I got some things that I've been talking to people about, and I'm going to have some experts come on and talk to us about it. And but they have their own disciplines, and they're experts at their discipline. You can't find that one company that's going to do everything. You can't continue to try to do everything. You have no brand because your brand is we do everything. We're a one-stop shop, and that worked great if you got limited in certain markets. It doesn't work well in large markets. So look at what are companies doing. Look outside your industry for ideas. Look at what Subway's doing in food. Look at what another company is doing. The reality is none of them are perfect, but they're crushing it in their sphere. And it's 80-20 rule. One of the things that stuck with me about 10 to 12 years ago, actually it's probably longer than that, it's probably about 16 years ago, that stuck in my head was what Sam Walton of Walmart said, is if you want to live with the masses, sell to the classes. And if you sell to the classes, if you sell to the masses, you will live with the classes. The question is, what do you want? Somewhere in the middle. I mean, the Bible teaches me more about sales, marketing, and business than most business books ever. I mean, you can't be lukewarm. You're either hot or you're cold. You can't be in the middle. Nobody really makes it in the middle. I want to be that. I hear people all the time tell me, I want to be that middle company. The one that's not too expensive and he's not too cheap. You know what you cause people? Nausea. That's nauseating. In the middle, nobody ever gets anywhere. Nobody wants the average player. Everybody knows who sucks, and everybody wants to be with the winner. That's the reality of business. If you're lucky enough to, like I said, I'm in a big market. I'm in a big town. My market is compared to that, in the top 10 with New York, big markets like Los Angeles. If you're in those markets, you understand what I'm talking about. If you're not, you have no clue. You think I'm like from a third planet. Get a USP. Figure out what your brand stands for. Make a stand. What makes you unique? Besides you. See, it isn't about you. Get you out of the way. Sometimes you are the biggest detriment to your own business. I am. Get out of the way. Figure out what your brand is going to stand for. If you had to leave tomorrow, could you train somebody to run a part of your business? Could you start training somebody to do one part of your business and delegate that? The marketing, has to get that phone to ring. You have to focus on the marketing. You got to focus on market development. You got to focus on how do you grow your business and stop trying to be the growth in your business. And I'm going to have an audio too from one of the guys from Terra Solutions that I met at Expo. And he's going to talk to us about his product. And then, guys, thank you so much. I really thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for the comments, the questions. What I hope to do is bring real knowledge, real understanding, real information that you can use on a daily basis to run and grow your pest control business and take it to the next level. This podcast isn't for people that just want to sit around and status quo, not change. I just did I did a teaching, and there's nothing worse than to see a bunch of old tire people that go to somewhere just to make it through another year because they're sick and tired and they're not going to do anything more. And that's about the most demotivating thing that you can be and be to others. And I'm just not about that. And so I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. All right, I'm walking around Expo, and I got here Cesar Diaz from Terra Solutions, LLC. Cesar, tell us what you do.
We sell, sir, fertilization products. Okay. All right, liquid, all liquid. We don't have any dry products. Okay. We also have a mosquito control product that is OMRI certified organic.
Okay, tell us about your liquid fertilizer blends. Are these custom blends? Are these blends that are already pre-manufactured? What line do you have?
We manufacture a custom blend. Our number one blend is a blend called Terra 14. That's TARA 14, okay. And it's a mixture of trace minerals, a 1400 slow release. Nitrogen. Okay. It's got a great carbon for energy in that mix. It's got humic acid. It really is a natural, nice blend with everything you need to grow great grass and plants.
Okay. And so this is a liquid formulation. So is it for trees, shrubs, ornamentals? What is the major use for it?
Yes, we basically affect all plants. Okay. It's nutrition. All right, so it's going to affect everything.
Everything. All right, and then you got also an OMRI certified. It's called Skeeter Gone. Now, what is that specifically for? That product?
It is a mosquito control product. Okay, it can be used in systems, can be used in sprayers, it can be used as thermal foggers. All right, and it is basically a surfactant soap with the main ingredient is a garlic oil, okay. And so we have a mechanical kill and we have a residual kill.
Okay, so the surfactant oil pretty much destroys the exoskeleton, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then the garlic reacts more as a repellent?
As a repellent.
Okay, so you get a dual mode action versus one type of synthetic, and is this OMRI certified?
It is OMRI certified.
All right, so it's organic, OMRI certified, mosquito controlled, and it can be used in 3 different types of systems. That is awesome. What else do you guys do?
We have a couple other blends. So we take that Terra 14 that we spoke about earlier, okay. And for those people that are in nitrogen ban areas, right. What we've done is we've created a product called Bandmax. That Bandmax, we remove the nitrogen and we add potassium. So you're still getting the greatness of your trace minerals, your humic acids, right. And all that, but it's no nitrogen in it.
So for the nitrogen blackout counties. And you work mainly in what areas do you guys work in the United States?
Well, we're actually we distribute in a lot of places in the U.S., but for those ban areas, we do a lot of coastal applications. Gotcha. And like in the state of Florida, a lot of the coastal cities have now gone to bans.
Right.
So I think it was in 2008 that the Sarasota ban started. Then it crept up to Tampa, and it's gone everywhere. So we have this product called Bandmax, and we've been very successful with it.
All right, awesome. And you guys do what are you located, or what's your website?
Our website is terraisgreen.com.
Okay.
All right. And I want to tell you one more product. We have a calcium product.
Okay.
All right. And that calcium product does 2 things. It holds nitrogen.
Okay.
All right. And then, a lot of times we do soil testing.
Right.
And we find that there's nutrition there, but it cannot be uprooted.
Right.
Our calcium basically does that, basically gets that nutrition loose so it is uprooted.
So what type of soils usually do you find that in?
Well, you have sandy soils,
right,
that sometimes are problematic to go in, and then also sometimes you have that clay kind of hardened,
right,
soil,
okay,
and again, there's no movement in there,
right,
and that's where our calcium does. It loosens it up so that it can be uprooted, those nutrition.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you.
Okay, that's good. Do I have a face for radio?
A face for radio. I love it. Guys, see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.